What's going on, everyone? We're back once again with another edition of the Wrestling Republic daily broadcast. I am your host for today, Clark Taylor. I'm hanging with my good buddy, friend of Wrestling Republic, basically wearing the banner for us today, Carter Crisp. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Clark. Thanks for having me. I'd like to thank you, the Wrestling Republic team. Really excited to be here. We got a lot going on in the wrestling world. My boy Otis, one of my favorite, best-looking maximum male models. I think the company's letting my boy a little short. I'm here to, I'm excited though. I don't want to overhit the Otis.
Dude, no, I'm with you on Otis. We're going to address that. And swiftly, my friend. I am stoked to have you on the show once again. We had a blast last time, and this is going to be a fun one. So while we're hot, let's get right into it. Why wouldn't we? We'll talk about Otis next. Wait a minute, we got a comment here. We got Blake Blackridge with a let's go. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, Blake.
Shout out.
Blake's got a marathon this weekend. He's out of the jiu-jitsu gym, so good luck with your marathon, Blake.
Yeah.
Me and Otis are staying off the treadmills, but
as a guy who knows he can't run 26.2 miles, correct, on a marathon?
Not even.
Monster respect, Blake, and thank you for tuning in. You are the man. But let's get into our first topic of the day, Carter. Woof. That was brutal.
Yeah.
But we had Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. So if you're gonna stutter over anything, those two in a promo segment together, it's magic. I want to get your thoughts on it first. I'll give mine, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. How do you feel about the potential of Rollins versus Reigns once again, given their history, as well as the fact that they were both drafted to SmackDown?
Well, here's a $1 million question: Is Rollins eventually going to wrestle, someone from the bloodline, and he's not going to get screwed over, any outside interference or anything like that? I mean, we want to see Rollins versus Reigns, but we don't want to see it if like one of the Usos are going to come in. We're just like, Rollins to me is one of the best faces. Like we were saying, and over in the other company, Rollins is almost on a Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin level of being a face. And you just hope that we kind of don't squash this potential. We know we have it in Cody too. But I thought the bit was fantastic. Paul Heyman is still just as on fire as he's ever been. It's so funny to see him at the top of the biggest company after considering his background. But I mean, when he was on the phone freaking out, calling the tribal chief, it was just, I was laughing. Like, I was just like, I can't wait to talk about this on the show tomorrow.
Heyman never gets old. I'm so with you on that. I think one of the most interesting points he made was about not wanting to see Rollins be screwed by the Usos again down the road. I want to get back to that too, because we can get into all of this. We got plenty of time here, but let's not forget, Seth Rollins was along Roman Reigns' long reign. He's going to break this record. Maybe he's going to go 1,000 days. Maybe he's not, right? We've introduced a new title, all of that. Seth Rollins at the Royal Rumble was the only non-clean finish along the way. Of all of Roman's title defenses, he beat every single one. In the middle of the ring. Interference or not, he beat him in the middle of the ring by submission or pinfall. Seth Rollins, not so much. Not the same. That was a count-out finish. It's the only one. He's the only one on the list. And so I think building towards that is so key here. And that's why we've got him on the same brand. Now, to your point about Rollins being a babyface, dude, Seth Rollins, I hate to say this, for a long time, I truly believed that Seth Rollins was born to be a heel. I had him in the MJF category. I had him on the opposite side of the coin. I had him elsewhere. I saw the entrance and the chant in person. I saw him wrestle Logan Paul. I saw all of what went down on the Raw after Mania, controversially or not, but the crowd's reaction to his entrance and even his exit. Seth Rollins too so over as a babyface finally. And I preached against that for months. He is the best babyface WWE has going right now. And I'm not saying over Cody. Cody's great in his own right. I thought Sami Zayn was the number one face in the company merely a month ago. But right this second, it's Seth Rollins. And if you're going to put anybody opposite Roman Reigns, the answer, in my eyes, is Seth freaking Rollins. All day long. Carter, I want to get your thoughts. Do you agree with that kind of? You feel like that's got to be what we're working towards here, especially given that Cody is tied up with Brock Lesnar at this point.
And I think the new title they created is going to make it so that that's going to kind of separate Cody and Reigns, and then it's going to leave Rollins and Reigns for that rivalry. What I'm wondering, I think once the 1,000-day runs up, then it's open season, and then it's a question of kind of who do the writers like the most at the time, and then it's looking like it's Rollins because he got drafted to SmackDown. But I mean, Cody Rhodes winning it, his father's legacy, everything like that. I just don't see it with the new title. I think Paul was it was a genius to have him look at the title and talk about it and say, oh, the tribal chief wants that. But I think it was a smart move on the WWE's part to create a new heavyweight title, have it look like the old one from the classic era that we all like, and then that gives Cody kind of a clean title to put over to Raw. And then Roman can do his 1,000 days. And once the 1,000 days are up, I think anything kind of goes. But it would be a shame to kind of, have Roman have the title bounce off of Roman and bounce around. I don't think the company would do that.
I'm 100% with you. Now, one thing I will say though about this is, it's funny because it's very obvious that the new belt, the new world heavyweight title is a it's an ode to the classic big gold world heavyweight title from both WCW and then early Raw in the 2000s, with a big W on it. And I think it's an awesome belt, and I love it.
Blingy.
Now, I will say this, only because we have time to talk about it. Does it not feel like a bit of a consolation prize if that's the world title that they put on Cody Rhodes and not Roman Reigns? Right, Carter? Isn't that a bit of a consolation? I feel like it devalues the belt.
A little bit. I mean, yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, I know we're in the wrestling realm, but you remember when this happened in the UFC when they had the heavyweight bout? It totally hurts the other belts. But the thing is, with Roman, you have such a strong face of the company, and he's so locked in, and it's so well tied into other storylines with other factions. And you have the tag team championships locked up, and guys from the indies, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Like the fact that we have guys like that, wrestling for titles, like we're in like a new attitude era right now. So I think the company is going to be smart. They're going to he's like a Hulk Hogan or a Rock level character. We're in the middle of that right now.
I think so too, and I would even compare Roman to like a Hollywood Hogan. As much as you'd love to take the title off of him, it just doesn't make quite enough sense to just yet. And I love the possible narratives coming out of this introduction of the new world title, as well as him retaining against Cody Rhodes. I mean, you have Rocky 2 on the docket in Philly for WrestleMania 40 next year, right? That's possible with Cody Rhodes. And then you add in Seth Rollins, you add in all the other pieces. It's still the best story in wrestling, unfortunately, as a fan of AEW. And I'm not saying that I'm anti WWE in any way. No, not at all. But just this Roman Reigns stuff is can't miss compared to almost everything else.
Well, we're all expecting him because we know that the 1,000 days ends up, and then we have the WrestleMania in Philly and the Rocky 2. There's, we're, me, you, the whole wrestling world is going to be expecting Roman to be losing the title that Mania. Do you think for that reason they're going to extend this thing just to keep it going, just so we keep tuning in? It's like the
I
Jake Paul you watch to see him get knocked out sort of deal.
I think that's the brilliance of this booking is we're getting to the point where everyone wants to see Roman lose, but I also think Roman's brilliance as a performer, and if he commits to maybe more dates next year, compared to
Mm-hmm.
the like what for Roman going into next year, if he's willing to work more often than he is this year, then I think he's all good. And I think at the end of the day, the move is that you book Roman to potential you book towards Roman losing at 40, but you don't bank on that being the case given crowd reaction. My only other fear is Philadelphia crowds at the end of the day, they're dangerous and they can turn on talents. Um, I want to get your thoughts on that. Would it be an issue if we build all the way to Roman and Cody and Philly Boozum?
That could get. I did not. That's a third factor I didn't think about. That Philly crowd, that's dangerous. Like there's all the difference in the world, because we're from the LA metropolitan area. I
Oh yeah.
love Los Angeles. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, but we don't have the same sports fans as Philadelphia. Philadelphia sports fans are insane. They booed Santa Claus. For those of you who don't know, Philadelphia sports fans booed Santa Claus. So that being said, doing something I mean, CZW, like Philly's got serious wrestling history. So if they're gonna screw over Cody Rhodes in Philly, they may want to consider the crowd reaction. I know that the WWE heat is kind of good for ratings, but that might be a reason to just go, let's make this easy so Roman gets out of here alive.
I'm 100% with you. Although I fear the opposite, even. I fear that the Philly crowd would root for Roman against Cody only because they'd be those that Philly wrestling can do that. They'll root for heels.
Yeah.
And
Philly
that'd be the
fan.
worst case scenario is you have Rocky 2 and they're for Apollo Creed.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't have that at the end of the day. Both scenarios scare me to death. There's so many places we could make this happen along the way that I
Mm-hmm.
think, to your point, um, the earlier the better,
Yeah.
almost. Now, with them being split up in the draft, I don't even know if that's possible. That's the problem. Is we've got, you know, a scenario where unless somebody gets transferred, or that's what they've been calling it, transferred. I'm like, I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
this was D1 football.
Yeah.
Um,
It
I
is
I was
basically.
hoping for trades like
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, but transfers are transfers, and outside of that, I don't know if Cody can get his hands on Roman until
Mm-hmm.
Philly next year.
Well, what's the deal? This might already be sorted out, but Rhea, she's the SmackDown Women's Champion, and she got drafted to Raw. Well, is that now the Raw Women's Championship, or is that just whoever beats her is, the new?
So that is spot on question too. And
Do we not
let's
know?
no. Here's the answer: is not only do we not necessarily know, but it's up for debate. And I'll give you a little bit of history. So last time this happened,
Okay.
it was Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair,
Yeah.
and it was a nightmare. They traded belts in the middle of the ring, and then they wrestled at Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bad. It did not make sense. Uh, they threw the belts on the ground. Charlotte actually stepped on Becky's belt.
Mm.
That didn't. That wasn't a great look. And then on top of that, they had a match at Survivor Series that was non-title, but just it was interesting to say the least. It was an entertaining match, it was outstanding for sure, bell to bell. But I mean, knowing the politics of the situation wasn't positive for anybody
Yeah,
involved.
absolutely.
I
Too much
think this
real world.
time, so we've actually presented a couple funny theories on this show. I said, why not just say whatever and have Ripley carry the SmackDown belt on Raw and Belair carry the Raw belt on SmackDown and just ignore it
To
till
watch.
till you come up with something. Till you come up with something. Ben Allison, I believe it was, suggested that we rename the titles, which
I
I
like
actually
that.
like that. Like women's world title, women's WWE title, rename them. You can keep the red and blue color scheme, even if it's on the opposite brand. I didn't mind that. I don't know how you announce that in a way where you don't get some backlash, though, was
Yeah,
kind of
it's
my and then
wrestling fans. They're never happy.
yeah. But I will say I think we can both agree trading belts, not so much.
Not in the middle of the ring,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I think I do like the different title. Is that how it used to be? I'm trying to remember
Well,
when
so the
we
men's
watched.
titles, the men's titles used to be the WWE title would be on one side and then the world heavyweight title would be on the other.
That's what I
For the
remember.
women's title, they had the Divas title and then the women's belt, and then they eventually both became the Raw and Women's SmackDown Championship. I've always actually believed they should go by the other format. Now we're also
Mhm.
stuck in that same. It's funny because we just had this conversation about the men's titles, and we're stuck in a spot where Roman Reigns carries the WWE Universal Championship and the WWE Championship.
Yeah, how do you split it up if
So
there's
that's
no?
two world titles, and then now you've put the World Heavyweight Championship back into play on Raw, which I understand, but we have three men's World Heavyweight titles. Like,
Mhm.
this isn't boxing, you know. It's too many belts.
If
And I love boxing, as do you, right?
the
And
belts ruin it, honestly. The
yeah,
belt, everything great about boxing is everything except for the amount of belts. It makes it so confusing. It makes it hard to follow, and you don't know what you're watching, who can fight who. It's why the UFC is better than boxing. The belts, simple.
100%, and the definitive champion. Now
Hmm.
it's funny. Anytime you hear the word undisputed, boxing is immediately more exciting.
Oh
Like
yeah.
no reason not to be. But they got to combine Roman Reigns' belts. They're
Hmm.
calling him undisputed Universal WWE champion, right? That's the title for it, but it's two belts still, and so there's only two world champions once we crown a world heavyweight champion, but there's three belts, and it's they need that's the next step is combine that one, but also just
Yeah.
rename the SmackDown and Raw ones. If you want to trade the title, I get it, brand to brand, but for lineage purposes, it doesn't make sense
Oh
to
yeah.
have one be linked to one brand and one the other. They're both women's world champions. We all understand as fans that one is the champion on SmackDown, the other is the champion on Raw, and that they appear on different shows. But it doesn't have to be tied to the brand in the name as far as the title's concerned, right? Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's too
Well,
much.
if we were new fans and we were looking at the champions and the rosters a week ago, it would make a lot of sense. But looking at it today without knowing any backstory, you would be very confused. You'd be like the SmackDown Women's Champions on Raw, the Raw Women's Champions on SmackDown. The guy who has both is on one brand, and then there's a new title. I do think the merging of Roman's titles that makes after you pointed that out, that makes all the sense in the world. Just combine them because I don't see how you break those out. Like if you're in boxing and you
Yeah.
have multiple belts, like maybe the association sanctions one, but the other one doesn't, and then you have weight divisions to break up the belts. But like this, I'm like looking at Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion. At some point, he might want to go for that heavyweight championship, but you have
Right.
three belts floating around up there. So it's like,
Well, and that's what's so interesting. That's such a great point about Gunther, and I thank you, by the way. I appreciate it
yeah,
because I've been thinking about. So, first and foremost, you can give Roman Reigns just a cool title design. You sell a million of them. Give him the sweetest. Give him just some sort of gold. I mean, right? Like unicorn belt, like the coolest belt ever. And on top of that, you have Gunther, who's on pace to break Honky Tonk Man's record with the Intercontinental title, is operating at a work rate that says main event picture. He's also never been beaten by Roman Reigns. Potential challenger. He also got drafted to Raw.
I love that.
So he's on the opposite side of Reigns again, though. They kept him away from Reigns. And to your point, that world heavyweight title, I think, might have Gunther's name on it before the undisputed universal one does, only because of the. But I don't understand keeping him away from Reigns, because Reigns is running out of challengers. Once we get past Rollins, who's left? Who's left?
It's a little early for Gunther right now. I mean, but I do. I mean, I have both of the new rosters printed out, and to me, it looks like SmackDown is very top heavy. You have some of the best talent in the company in SmackDown, but it's just not that deep. And then Raw is just like extremely deep. You know, you got Gunther, you got Drew McIntyre, you got Shinsuke Nakamura, you got some really good wrestlers. You know, like people that your favorite Jim Cornette would, you know, say an ode to the favorite.
Oh, we got. I mean, classic strong style. Like, guys. I mean, absolutely legit. And we got a comment too, Anthony Manzano with the hey guys, what's up, man? How are you?
Good
to see you. But yeah, like it's one of those things where roster wise, this is such an interesting split. You know, we've had both sides with kind of shocking picks, but not really that shocking. I don't know. I've criticized the order itself in the past. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, we're in a spot where these two rosters are going to function. I know Triple H has mentioned of late that actually this is, you know, like this is the future. This is the way we're going to do things. I like the idea of a clean split. Do you like that idea too, of two separate rosters, like competing rosters, SmackDown and Raw against each other?
Oh yeah, I mean, but I was, you know, to give people a little idea of when we came into wrestling. You know, we graduated high school 2010. We came in around that 2005 WrestleMania 20 era, where the video game was SmackDown versus Raw. And I remember going into school Monday through Friday. I was the Raw guy. I had people that were SmackDown people. So I'm all about splitting the brands, separating them. The only thing that slightly concerns me with this roster printout is SmackDown deep enough? Is it too top heavy? They got two of my two favorite up and comers, LA Knight and Karrion Kross. Those two guys are workhorses. They're going to do great. Karrion Kross, another strong style MMA crossover sort of guy. But I mean, is this roster deep enough? You look at the Raw roster. You know, like the Gunther WrestleMania match, that you could make a bunch of these out of these guys, men's and women's. I guess it's too. Raw is a longer show, and it is kind of WWE's marquee program, so it does make sense. But without the crossover, you know, is this roster going to be deep enough? Or is there going to be enough people to feed to Roman Reigns? Or maybe they did it this way on purpose to protect Roman Reigns and grow the young talent on the other side, because it kind of looks like that.
That's what it looks like to me too. And the women's division is so much more stacked on SmackDown than it was, I would say, not necessarily last season, but last year.
Yeah.
Right. And that's telling to me. So like, and I agree with you on, I think given Roman's limited schedule, I understand that the top of the card with the new world title on the Raw side, as far as the men are concerned, we need to see that division stacked because there needs to be contenders. Now we got another comment from Anthony Manzano. Carter and Clark, did WWE release a statement on why they canceled NXT Europe? And so, to be completely honest with you, Anthony, I do not know if they released an official one or not. But as far as I know, that could be linked to the Endeavor acquisition. I'm not 100% sure, and it may be something that has been shelved more than it's been canceled, but I can't be 100% sure.
I have a question, Clark. Is NXT Europe the same as NXT UK?
No, so that's like the rumored brand. That one's not. It's not been launched yet. So that one's
Okay.
we don't know exactly what the deal is on that one.
Interesting.
At the end of the day, though, it would be really cool to see NXT have another brand back. With given what I believe was the success of NXT UK, it'd be very cool to see them back.
Mhm. I mean, NXT is a big part of what makes this draft so exciting. Not to throw myself under the bus, but I may have cried a few crocodile tears when Indy Hartwell got drafted. I mean, it's like college football, watching like one of your favorite players, like maybe you watched them in high school and then seeing them come up. It's just like, it's probably the most exciting part of this draft outside of like, thinking of all the storylines and stuff. Seeing the NXT people come up, especially if you watched NXT.
Oh yeah.
And seeing them get drafted, and how excited they are. And I mean, Indy Hartwell and Rhea Ripley. That's a good match to have over and over and over again.
It is, and two talents that can match each other physically too, which is impressive. And we have another comment from Anthony Manzano. I think what's going to happen is they're going to call it Breaker after Backlash and put him on SmackDown. I can't be sure, my friend, about that one. I'll address that first. I think given the route they've gone, I think we're more likely to see Carmelo Hayes.
I think Breaker's kind of done, which I hate that Breaker's done, but I think I don't know. I don't think he had a big WrestleMania weekend. I think that was a big weekend for a lot of the NXT people.
See, Carter, I don't even think he's done. I just think that he's too valuable to the NXT brand to call up so soon.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's done. Like, I wouldn't go that far because I'm with you. Like, Mania weekend, he was solid and everything. But given his youth, given his history, it's like he's kind of the only reason to tune in Tuesday nights right now. If you call him up, you're hoping he boosts an audience on one of the other shows. I don't know if it's that time, right?
It's like with Gunther. It's like you could put him up against Roman today, or you could let him ride out this Intercontinental Championship. Let Roman kind of work its way out. And I think it's too soon.
100%. And then we got another comment from Numero One Superfly. Shout out. Good to see you again, my friend. Do you think the draft contradicted itself as both Judgment Day and the Bloodline got 2 picks, even though they could have been picked as 1 pick? I do understand that, but at the same time, I don't think that actually the answer is you're probably right, but it's expected by the WWE.
Of course
and that's no knock on WWE. It is what it is with the draft. Like, I've had my complaints about the draft format. It doesn't feel like it's live. It doesn't feel, in my eyes, like it we don't even hear from the picks after they happen, right? It's just they flash a picture on the screen and then move on from there. That part of it to me is disappointing, and so I would say that it contradicted itself in that they didn't need to give 2 picks, because I thought that the pops that they were trying to garner from those picks were, and splitting them, they kind of wasted 1 big pop for 1 big pick on each. I would agree with that. And then we have another one, which is, what else does Breaker need to accomplish in NXT? He's held more titles, so see, Anthony, I actually agree with you here on this one, man.
I do too. He's my favorite.
I think he's ready for the main roster. I think the problem is he's kind of carried NXT for so long, and they can trust him, that to send him up to the main roster now unless he's going to boost one brand or the other so drastically. They're almost better off letting him be the biggest fish in the pond that's just a little too small for him for the time being until it's time, right? That's the way I would look at it. Carter, does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone that could replace him in NXT right now. NXT just took kind of a bit, like Indy was a big deal. You know, I'm trying to Pretty Deadly, like that was a big loss for NXT. So I think they kind of, like you said, they're holding on to some of their talent, so they have someone for some of these new guys to come in and work off of. That's really strong.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then one more from Anthony Manzano. Thank you, Anthony. What are you guys' thoughts on WWE moving SmackDown to 3 hours? Do you think it's a mistake? I didn't actually realize that's official. I don't think it is official. I think that's kind of more of a rumbling, right, at this point. But either way, to address the comment, I think it's a mistake. I think Raw suffers from being 3 hours. Unfortunately, I want as much wrestling as anybody, but I think at the end of the day, 3 hour SmackDown is too many hours, and especially on a Friday night. You know, it doesn't make sense on a Friday night to go that route. But how do you feel about that, Carter?
Yeah, I think you're gonna have the Street Profits have a lot of work to do. Those guys are exciting, but yeah, I think that it keeps them even too. And I think if the WWE wants to have it as like Raw's our premier brand, even though they are kind of 50-50, it was we'll see how it plays out though. If they're able to fill it in, that'd be great. But I like I hate to mention the other company. I like the format of we'll film dark and then we'll do Dynamite, and then I like that format a lot. So if there's a way to, hey, maybe if we need to get these people more time, let's put a house show on YouTube. But I know WWE is a big company, moving that fast is kind of difficult.
No doubt, and I hear you on that. Because I love the in-arena experience for AEW when you get dark leading into, you have time to settle into your seat and enjoy the whole show. We have another comment from Anthony Manzano. Thank you, Anthony. The reason why I think it's a good idea is because when you look at the lineup for Fox in terms of the regular scripted or non-scripted shows, they don't really have anything on the schedule. I understand where you're at, but that Friday night time slot is so hard. And there's a reason people aren't gunning for it, would be my answer to that, Anthony. I hear where you're coming from 100%. Like I am a regular viewer of AEW Rampage. I'm a regular viewer of Friday Night SmackDown. And I get that there's time and place for people to watch those shows. But that is just a tough time slot to fill Friday night after dark. Especially like I'm out here on the West Coast, so are you, Carter. Pacific time. Anything after 8 or 9 is hard to. There's a lot of recording, and that throws a wrench in a plan like that, I would say.
Yeah, and you have more competition Friday nights going into, especially as you go later.
So you think if they do a 3-hour show, if that's true, it would make sense to move it to
Thursday? Yes, because I don't want it to get in the way of Showbox on Fridays.
And to be completely honest, I think Thursday night time slot makes a lot more sense. The only issue would be competing against Thursday Night Football. But if you're coming right out of Thursday Night Football, that's a great time slot to have a 3-hour show in, and that would make more sense to me. While it's a big deal that they're on Fox on Friday nights, that Friday night time slot is harder than people realize. It just is. I mean, logic alone, right? We all have plans Friday night to some extent, whether it be to watch TV or not. We all have plans, right, Carter? You know what I mean? We all have some plan. And Thursday Night Football, I said. Did you say Tuesday? Tuesday Night Football really doesn't have great. Thursday night. I agree, but at the same time, just going head to head with the NFL is always an issue. Raw always suffers going head to head with Monday Night Football.
I like Wednesday I like what AEW did. I think Wednesday is a great day to put wrestling on.
Smart day for sure.
I
also think Fox wouldn't be available though on Thursday night or Wednesday night, or that's why they're in the Friday night time slot in the first place. While a third third hour would be interesting. Um, I don't think it's feasible, and I would almost prefer them to go the route of what AEW's kind of done with All Access and put a reality show immediately following. Um, you
It's always
know,
a good idea.
any kind of behind the scenes, right, about
Mhm.
WWE, whatever it may be. If it was my call, that's what I would go with. Um,
Hmm.
yes, so Anthony, yeah, I hear where you're coming from on they have to compete with the NBA and the NBA schedule as well, and
I
that
agree
affects their
about that.
ratings as well, right? Like, no, it's fair game on both sides, on both those. No question. I couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
That's an absolute issue for them, especially with the Turner agreement. And it's I'm enjoying talking about this. I love television as much as the next guy, so
Yeah.
I really, Anthony, we appreciate the comments.
I feel like it's
Um,
hard to figure out when, like imagine if you were in a new market, like not Impact, but like, a company like that, and you're trying to figure out when do I put on my wrestling show? It's kind of, and you have in MMA, we have one FC that's putting on shows at 2 in the morning, from like 2 in the morning to 6 in the morning, and people are still watching it. So it's like, do you appeal to the casual, or do you kind of go with the people that are going to watch it if it's on at 3 a.m.?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we got another comment here from Ben Allison, the boss man.
Clearing the record.
Awesome show so far, guys. Also, in response to the above comments, NXT Europe is not canceled and very unlikely SmackDown is moving to 3 hours, which is, thank you for clearing that up, Allison.
I
Um,
believe it.
so it looks like we've got NXT Europe still in the cards, and it would be crazy if they moved to SmackDown to Saturday. Yeah, no, I love the speculation, Anthony, but I just don't think it's happening.
Saturday,
Um,
10 a.m., I would do it. If they did Saturday anytime after, you're competing with the UFC.
yeah, that's an excellent point. And other, I mean, even boxing, other pay per views,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You just open yourself up to things like that. I guess before we go, we got a little bit of time left. Let's touch more on last night's Raw. I mean, you wanted to talk about Otis. Is he gonna go maximum male models, or is he still full blown Alpha Academy? What's the call?
I mean, I don't, it's hard to say no to Maxine, but I don't know. I just kind of wanted to talk about poor Otis. It looks like he got absolutely demolished by like the most talented, biggest guy, and the most. I mean, it was beautiful, but Otis got squashed, man. I love Otis, and Chad Gable too is like a Kurt Angle, Ken Shamrock type guy who's got
Yeah,
real like serious grappling credentials, like. And you see it in the ring. The guy is a stud. He's super talented, but like, did they have to do my man Otis like that in front? And to see Maxine watch it too, it pulled on my heartstrings. It hurt as an Otis fan. It was painful.
it's brutal. I was with you, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to fathom what the next step is. I thought one of the best storylines of the pandemic was Otis and Mandy Rose. So if that
Mm-hmm.
was in the cards again with Maxine, it would be hilarious. And not to do it again, but like still in the Otis thing cracks me up. It really does.
It's
I
so good. I mean, it's
it's
like a classic. Maxine's like a classic '80s like wrestling manager. She's
oh
leaning into it too. They're doing. I love what they're doing with the work. It's so funny. And Chad
it
too. I mean, the in ring stuff's too great too. It's just like I feel like he got a little underutilized yesterday.
that's the best part is, to your point,
Mhm.
Gable Bell to Bell is off the charts. People forget he's awesome on the mic. He's hilarious. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
he's charismatic as could be.
Hmm.
He's awesome. And I
Yeah.
mean, shoosh, thank you. Like they're all golden. I like them all.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
and the partnership with Otis, even the social media work, I love.
So
Um,
funny.
yeah, the whole thing. And I hope they tell a fun story
Hmm.
between Alpha Academy and male models with
Yeah.
with Maxine in the middle. That's that's the route I'd like to see him go myself.
Hmm.
I mean, to round us out here, we've only got a few minutes left, but we did have the LWO. essentially. So Mysterio, Santos, and Zelina versus Priest, Dominic, and the SmackDown Raw Women's Champion.
SmackDown Women's Champion on Raw.
No, the SmackDown Raw Women's Champion. Yeah,
Yeah.
the SmackDown Raw Women's Champion. Right?
Yeah.
Rhea Ripley.
This isn't confusing at all.
Yes. No, it's not confusing in the least. But the Judgment Day versus the LWO, I personally completely enjoyed the match. I thought they were awesome. And Zelina looks like the absolute first challenger for that title from Ripley. I want to get your thoughts, Carter. How'd you feel about it?
Great match. I mean, I love the way they're mixing the factions in. The RK Bro with Matt Riddle thing is so funny. But I mean, call me a Rhea stan. I don't see Zelina. I'm just looking at the size difference, and maybe I'm taking this thing, too seriously. I don't see Zelina. I see Zelina getting kind of smashed by Rhea. But I mean, it'll be a fun match. I mean, Zelina's a great representative in the LWO. You're going to Puerto Rico. Bad Bunny's hosting it. It's going to be awesome. It's just Rhea is such a monster in the ring, and Zelina's beautiful, like really cool into like cartoons and stuff. She's awesome, but I don't see her. Rhea. I mean, I don't see myself. Rhea would beat the crap out of us. No offense, Claire.
I hear you there, dude. That's the only thing. But I will say though, with Zelina's ability to wrestle like more lucha style,
yeah,
because she does have the acrobatics. The match on paper will look good. I don't know if she can quite convince us that she's a full-blown threat to Ripley, but she might convince us that she has a chance. And I think that's the only way to make that match exciting. But I do like the prospect of it being Zelina Vega. Now, this is another problem, and we can get into this another time, and we will. But Zelina has not had enough singles action for us to know, and that's not her fault. She just hasn't won enough, beaten enough people. I don't want to say random matches, but for storytelling's sake, we only see Zelina either wrestle or manage, and there's not a whole lot of wrestling recently. And that's unfair to Vega. And I think that's part of the reason, because I agree with your take on, is she a threat to Rhea Ripley? Probably not, which is kind of the best one we got right this second.
Yeah, and especially for the event Backlash in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and I think that's unfair to Zelina because she's so talented. I think at the end of the day, a build towards a match where maybe a ladder match or something like that, where we could see Zelina have maybe more of a shot because of the stipulation. That would I think be the route that I would go if I had the pencil per se.
I mean, this Raw roster, there's a lot of really good female talent, but a lot of it's kind of in the tag teams. You got Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, and you got there's just kind of What about this? This is gonna be out of nowhere. What about my girl Piper Niven?
Piper Niven's awesome talent. Where did she go? Did she get drafted?
She's on Raw.
She's on Raw.
Yeah. With Nikki Cross. Shout out to Nikki Cross.
Piper Ripley would be all time.
That's a great Piper Zelina. So there's a lot to play with here. There's a lot of matchmaking. Zelina, she's not going to take. I think you're right. It's going to be a great match. It's the opportunity LWO, but is she going to take it from Rhea? Is it going to be believable?
Yeah,
it's
a great point. Honestly, though, guys, it's been an awesome show. Carter, thank you once again, and we'll have you back very shortly, sooner rather than later, of course. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, guys, please do. It really helps us out. You're the best. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a blast. I mean, before we go, wrestling's never been in a better place, right?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a new attitude era. It's just the writing is so good, the characters, the talent, the industry. We have multiple companies. We're lucky as wrestling fans to have all this.
100%. Thank you guys for having us, Carter.
Thank you, everyone.
Clark Taylor, Wrestling Republic. Thank you again.